demo. Now, from the morning we had very interesting sessions. People talking about strategy, what will happen tomorrow, day after. So from there we are getting into something which we have today. So probably you have to bear with me. Might not be that interesting. So from a very futuristic, we are going to show something which we have. So when we get down to reality, probably might not be that interesting. And then this topic is quite big. I have a canned demo where I will try to demonstrate what I can, but please understand with the time we have, it will be small. So before I give the demo, I just need to give a little bit of a context of what I am showing. So we have a platform which I'm leading, which is called Ibm Automation with Watson. So it's built on the big Watson platform. I think I heard that name several times today. And it is taking care of Watson, RPA, and some other things to provide automation. Now, there is a part, with an analogy, we say is that in an automation there are three things. So to start with, there is a brain which makes decision, whatever, artificial or language or things like that, understanding of language. So that is there. I'll talk about that little bit after I do the demo. Then there is the right hand side. If you see that I have the arm, so where things are happening physically. So we talked of RPA as one of the tool. We can have workload scheduler. We can have several ways by which I can get a particular task automated. So this is not a humanoid, but a software piece of work which can get some piece of work automated. So this is my arms and legs. So if I have to get some task automated, I run these programs. But then this has to be coordinated. So we heard about that, that a piece of work has to be coordinated. So just pieces of bots running might not solve a full problem. So that coordination is done by what we call here as the integration layer or the nervous system. So you have arms and legs. So they are controlled by the nervous system. And if we want to add, and we add here, is the brain, which adds intelligence to that entire process. Why I told that is today in the demo, we are going to show only a small piece of it, which is the arms and legs, which is being controlled by the nervous system. Again, very small piece of the nervous system. I'll do that, and then again I'll come back and I'll talk a little bit about what is the brain part doing. Okay, so again, the demo that is going to show is there's a user who's using an enterprise application. And this is a created demo because most of the demos that we have or the use cases are typically confidential because clients put a lot of thinking in creating their business cases, so they don't want to share. So here we have created a made up circumstance where there is a user who works on confidential purchase orders. Okay, so she cannot share the details with everyone, and for some reason that user does not have access. So how can things be done? So for the demo, what we are showing is that there is a chat interface. Okay, so and with the chat interface, the user is interacting with the enterprise application. So if you see here. Okay. No, 1 second. Huh. Okay, so here if you see, now, I don't know if I can use the mic. Yeah, so sorry, I take this mic. So here, if you see that, so there's a user, and there is an interaction of the user with a chat interface. Okay. So first of all, the chat understands, and chat says hello, and the user says that I want help with my purchase order. Okay. Huh? Okay, so once the user asks for a purchase order, again, that user may have access to multiple systems. So first of all, you need to understand that which system that you are referring to, because this user may be using multiple systems in which there are purchase orders. So the system goes back, finds out what are the different systems that the user has access to. And then, if you see that in one system, when the user says that I have access to one system, it goes to the back end and it finds out that there are multiple orders, purchase orders. So which is the purchase order that you want to look into? It's the last 1 month purchase order, last 6 months purchase order, last 1 year purchase order. And then also it asks that what is the username with which you want to purchase order, because now if you find that the bot will have to get into a particular system with a particular user ID and know which set of purchase order, so it is collecting all the details before it can start and execute that bot. So now here if you see, so this is where a bot is running. Huh? So when you see a bot running, it is actually mimicking a user. Okay, so there is no user here, but the bot has been created to mimic a user. So whatever an end user would have done, so these are the steps which are being followed. So these are the bot development process which happens before I run. This is a very simple process. The bot development process, the RPA tools have become extremely simple. So even people with very low amount of training can record this. Now, so here if you see, so you see this user. Typically when a user is there, the user logs in. So the developer, while creating the bot, has recorded this. Okay, and now my system through this nervous system is calling this bot, and it is mimicking the user. Okay. And again, these are the steps in the enterprise application which the user would have done typically. So this is now, there is no user, but the bot is doing that. Okay, so here again, it tries to, same access. This is the ERP application access which typically human beings make. And then it has found out certain things, and it is again coming back to the user. So here, what they have found out is that they are saying that there are several purchase orders which are there within the criteria that you have provided. So the bot could not take an action because it is not one purchase order which falls under that criteria. So it goes back and provides again with an information that there are several, which one do you want? So then again, after it has been provided that which one it is, then it asks that what do you want to do with the purchase order? Do you want to make some change or you want to cancel the purchase order? So let us, the user says that wants to change, and then asks that what do you want to change? Okay. So this is again collecting the input. So this is the nervous system which is collecting the input so that again the hands and legs can be made use of correctly. Again, when the information has been collected, again a different bot is fired. So this is a different bot because this is a different set of activities. Okay. So here another bot is fired, which again, if you see, these are the typical end user activity or the repetitive activity that we have heard several times that the user does. So here you see that the bot is mimicking that and doing it. Okay. Then, so once it has been done, it provides you with, detail what all changes you want to make, and, it does the changes again. So again, for the final transactional update, it again calls the bot. So, and it gets it done. So typically, if you see why the nervous system was important is that there were several bots which were called in. To have the automata to work properly, there had to be user interaction to collect information, to validate information, and then call multiple bots at the right time by passing those contextual information. So that is the the nervous system part of it, which is very important. And the bots, if you see the RPAs, so these are typical manual end user activity. You log in, you find a purchase order, you update some data with a record which has been provided, you say save, you take an export, whatever, you send it for an, for that process. So all these manual processes are happening automatically, and then you get a response. So this is this is what we have in the demo. So if we have questions, I can, we can go presentation. Yeah, so that was a short demo. Again, just to repeat, if you see this layer, so there is this integration layer, which is the nervous system, which is extremely important, and then you have arms and legs. So here, because this session was for RPA, we had used some RPA, which was mimicking an end user to do certain things into an enterprise application. It can be extended. It's a programmatic interface other than an enterprise application. It can be anything else. It can be multiple applications, and all that can be done. Now, before I close, I know there is a time limit, otherwise we could have got into more details into each piece of it. Just a little bit about the brain part of it, and I think we talked about it, and which makes RPA more interesting, is that at some point in time, we have to ensure that we understand what is happening. Okay? Now today, we saw and we have made it very easy by creating it a chat interface. In reality, everything might not be a chat interface. The discussion can be happening in an email trail, which has to be understood, tracked, and find out what is the right action. And it can be many other means. It can be your telephone conversation. It can be any means by which input can be provided, and you have to understand that so that the nervous system and the arms and leg can take the right action. And the second one, which is very important, is recommendation. So here it was asking question, how many system, which system? In many times we can make it more intelligent that rather than that it can recommend. Just think about it. We are only talking of an end user giving a command and the end user's activity is being automated. But we are also talking of, of the concept of self-healing. I heard in one of the session, I think the speaker was talking about anomaly. So if there are anomaly, here the brain can get that information, or it can get, the location, maybe, something like log files or something, where it can detect analogy, and then it can call this integration layer and it can call this dynamic automation thing. So what will happen is it can solve the problem before it has happened. So here the brain is being used not by an end user, but by a system. Okay? So this can be extended in several ways. So it was a small demo where I just talked about the arms and legs with an RPA tool, manipulating an application with basic control over the integration layer, but it can be extended and it can be made more useful. Thank you, and thanks. Back to you.
Can we take the questions after the last question? Please. Thank you. I think just we'll take the questions at one go, so that now I would request Mr. C.N. Raghupati, Vice President and Head of the India Business from Infosys. Yes, Mr. Raghupati.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's always a pleasure to be back in Calcutta. I think this is the second or third BCCI summit I'm attending. And I think the General from Protiviti talked about reskilling. And there is a reason. Of course, I spent some of my early childhood in Calcutta, but then of relevance to this seminar is the fact that in 1997, I decided that I had enough of manufacturing because I was a guy who built power plants, and was in manufacturing. And Calcutta at that time through PwC gave me the opportunity to reskill myself into an IT professional. So one way of saying thanks to the city is to come back whenever you call me. Okay. So that's about reskilling. Respected Professor Mazumdar, I'm actually honored to serve with you on the board of Adamas. I think you made a sort of observation which I will seek to reply, not as a marketing plug, but obviously somebody has spoken about it. Infosys has a flagship product called Finacle. I'm a part of the leadership there. And we are well aware that distributed ledger management is the way to go, which is blockchain technology. And we have done the first proof along with ICICI about 3 months back with banks in the Middle East for ledger management. There are, of course, regulatory norms in the bank which preclude us from taking away the CBS totally. The payment banks, as Professor has mentioned, are something which is going to test our ingenuity. We will be rolling out some of the highest transaction per second payment banks. Those would be a different concept altogether. We are well aware that our existence is threatened not by our competitors in the field, but by the up-and-coming startups, the fintech startups. And I just wanted to mention that in passing. In the same breath, we are investing a lot into machine learning and into artificial intelligence. My CEO who is leading this effort, Dr. Vishal Sikka, actually did his PhD under a gentleman whose name was mentioned at least 4 times today, John McCarthy, the founder of artificial intelligence. So obviously there's a lot of passion out there, driven right from the top. We call it NIA. We used to call it MANA until a couple of months back, but we are now integrated it with our digital offering of RPA to call it NIA. Now, where does all this lead us? I would say that we are, I'll just use this expression. I was at a board meeting on Saturday and one of my colleagues who was very close to me texted me, is it still going on? It was night at about 2 a.m. because obviously Vishal lives in Palo Alto, and I said, yes, we are living in the best of time and the worst of times. He said, I know the worst of times, but what's the best of times? How many of you have heard about the Cambrian era? In development of the world, which the world, if you take it, is 1 billion years old, about 500 million years back was when species started first appearing. The single-cell species, the species with a backbone, the species with bones in them came in during the Cambrian era. It is said that the Cambrian era developed because there was sunlight and there was water, which is why single-celled organisms became what they are, finally leading to mankind and finally leading to all of us sitting in this room here. Now I think, just like the pre-Cambrian era, we went through an era of the ERPs, the emails, etc., which on hindsight, which is always foresight 2020, was something which is a harbinger for things to come. And I think Mr. Ajay Chaudhary talked about the exponential way, but this is going to lead to a great degree of explosion, which I would call the Cambrian explosion, taken after natural sciences. Now, what does this mean to us? It essentially means disruption of almost every sector. My day job for which I get paid is obviously to service my clients. I also have a job I do on the weekends which I teach. I teach at a couple of universities. And let me take medicine. There are going to be 4 disruptive forces in medicine. Wearables. Today if you look at Fitbit, it measures almost everything. And there are many other wearables. There's genomics. There is electronic health records, and there is imaging. Now take all 4 of these on a base of a machine learning platform. using machine learning, one can find what exactly are the diseases that I'm predisposed to, obviously because of genetics. Using wearables, you can find what exactly have I subjected my body to. Using imaging, you can immediately get those, and all of these come together to be recorded in something called an electronic health record, which records all of these so that even if you have forgotten that you had some sort of a treatment about 10-15 years back, it records it for you. Now that, sirs, is not very distant in the future. I'm sure it is in Calcutta, but whenever I go to hospitals to take my relatives or I just go to visit because my wife is a doctor, there are billboards there saying that get a DNA test done. DNA test is nothing but genome sequencing, and that has come down from $10,000 a pop to 5,000 rupees or so a pop. And today there are machine learning programs which help you to do this, excepting they are very costly. I worked with the HNI hospital. We evaluated a package. It costs a person about $50,000 and he has to stay for the entire day. But then I guess in course of time it will come down. Now that is as far as health is concerned. We work a lot with the Ministry of Home Affairs. I can't get into specifics, but I'm sure you have all heard of Palantir, which is the program which got Osama bin Laden. And let me assure you that certainly certain programs already exist which can record exactly where an individual is going. Is he going where he's supposed to go? Is he doing what he's supposed to do? By which train he has come? So on and so forth. Let me take something like income tax. And the law has already been passed. Into the future, and which is not too far, 2-3 years hence, based on your lifestyle and the machine learning, based on what you posted on Facebook on your foreign holiday, based on the 5-star hotels you attended, based on the cars you bought, your income will be sent to you by the government and saying, Mr. Raghu, we believe that your income is XYZ. If you choose to dispute it, you can come. Others, please pay up. And that's happening because with GSTN, you have the entire database of even your indirect taxations. Now all this is leading to a society where machine learning will play a very, very critical role. Now let's come to augmented reality, virtual reality. In the university where I teach, which is a great medical center, we are also working, some of my students are working with the hospital to build an augmented reality programs to see how the progression of a disease, like let us say cancer, would affect a particular organ. That's augmented reality. What is reality today is that we work with one of the oil and gas companies where the virtual reality and augmented reality is you can walk through the oil field before you take your decision where to drill or where not to drill. So let me come to the job situation. I think Professor mentioned, a few others also mentioned. What does all this mean for jobs? What does this mean for the future? One of the basic things that I try to work with the education system, but I believe that all of you should take the message, is we need to get back to our basics, which is mathematics. Tomorrow, if you're a great Python coder or a Java coder, you may not have a job because using robotic process automation, I can automatically code in Java or Python. However, I cannot write the algorithm, okay, which has to run it. The basics is going to go back into the algorithms. There are two types. One is Scruffy AI and Neat AI. Neat AI is driven by the Bayesian logic. which is very neat. You can open it up and find out what happens. But most of the time, you have scruffy AI, which is artificial neural networks. And that requires a lot of math. So we need to get back to people graduating to say, become strong in your math, coding is great, please concentrate on coding, but get back to your math. Because I was talking to one of my younger colleagues the other day, and I had done a math problem till certain portion. I said, why don't you complete it? I need to go in for this meeting. And 2 days later, he hadn't progressed. I said, what's the problem? Obviously, math was not something that they emphasized on in school. So I think there is going to be a sea change in the skill sets required. I think others have spoken about it, but I just wanted to talk about the math portion of it. I know that there's other speaker and there's a question answer session. So I'll leave it here and take questions later on. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Raghupati. He has just covered up the areas of concern. Now I would request Mr. Roger Chakraborty, Director of Enterprise Architecture, Oracle India Private Limited. He is going to cover up the software in IoT. Mr. Chakraborty.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. And it's been a great session right from the morning, talking about a lot of things that are coming up in our future. But for a change, I'm going to discuss something which is right now amidst us. And the topic is Internet of Things. In short, we call it IoT. I'm sure it is not a new terminology or a new concept, but I'm just trying to reflect on certain things that are happening, that had happened in recent past, not so recent past. We probably didn't know that IoT has sneaked into our life before we started talking about it. So basically, what I try to simplify this concept of IoT in the context of automation is basically extending human senses to the edge of the network. Whatever we have heard so far is about something probably in a new way which will complement human senses and human actions through robotics. But this topic right now, what I'm going to discuss is mostly about how we extend human senses to the edge of the network, not to replace human minds and human actions. So it's not about jobs, it's not about automation by disrupting the way we look at the world. What we're saying is how we can just complement few simpler things